Families and classmates of the disappeared Ayotzinapa students protested in front of the 27th Infantry Battalion military base in Iguala Guerrero, demanding entry to search for their missing loved ones. In various cities throughout Mexico, social and civil organizations held similar protests in front of other military bases, accusing the armed forces of having a long history of complicity with organized crime.
We know that army units and military commanders in different states of the Republic collude with drug smugglers and organized crime.
Some experts suggest that the military may have participated in the enforced disappearance of the missing students, taking them to crematories. Yet, the Secretary of Defense denies the existence of any crematoriums in military installations.
There are no crematoriums or anything like that. However, the official page of the National Defense Secretary offered its members of the armed forces the funeral services of crematoriums.
It is expected that more actions and protests will continue up until and after the planned national protest to be held on January 26th, which will mark 4 months since police in Guerrero attacked and disappeared the Ayotzinapa students. Clayton Khan, teleSUR, Mexico City.
Member of the Peace Commission in the Colombian Congress, Ángela María Robledo, received with hope President Santos' announcement that he has given instructions to his peace negotiators to begin talks on a bilateral ceasefire with the FARC. For Robledo, this is a great relief and a step in the right direction.
In the heart of Colombia, there are the rural workers, the indigenous communities, the human rights defenders, the Afro-descendants, all of those people who every day have to live among the violence. That's the Colombia from which we have received calls for a ceasefire and for advancing an agenda that allows us to give a surname to peace, peace with social justice.
For Paula Gaviria, director of the Unit for the Reparation of the Victims, Colombia has taken one of the most daring decisions a government has to ever take: to compensate the victims of the conflict while armed confrontations are still occurring. This historic decision will bring with it huge challenges.
It implies not being able to offer the victims guarantees of non-repetition, which is the biggest desire of all victims, that it does not happen again, neither to them or others.
Like Robledo, Paula considers that a bilateral ceasefire will not just bring relief to those caught in the middle of the crossfire, but also will contribute immensely to the titanic task of compensating the more than 7 million of victims of Colombia's armed conflict.
To be able to concentrate all efforts on compensation, and above all to give the victims the confidence that it won't happen again, that they are going to be able to go out into the street, to be citizens and live a life without fear and in peace.
Following President Santos' speech, the FARC released a statement welcoming the announcement and saying that they are ready for a bilateral ceasefire. Reparation of the victims will be at the center of the discussions during the next cycle of peace talks in Havana, Cuba, scheduled to begin on Monday, January 26. From Bogota, Natalia Margarita, telesur.
The Argentine government launched the Agreed Prices program in January 2014 to provide predictability, stability and transparency in the process of price formation.
This isn't about freezing prices, but more about managing flexible prices. It attempts to generate the conditions for price variations that are reasonable and have a logical justification based on economic fundamentals, and not based on what very often is completely speculative behavior, which ends up generating fear in consumers, especially the most vulnerable sectors.
In a press conference this Monday in Buenos Aires to announce the launch of the 5th stage of Agreed Prices, Economy Minister Axel Kicillof highlighted that the key factor in the success of the program was that it empowered the people.
Agreed Prices is a program to end speculation. It is a program which seeks to defend the purchasing power of wages, and when introduced it, had the objective of settling in, so that the people could have an active participation in the process of price formation.
Agreed Prices has generated more awareness in consumers, who are now much more cautious about how much they are paying for their groceries.
In 2014, almost 90% of the economically active population from the middle and lower segments were familiar with the Agreed Prices programme and demanded it when making a purchase.
A year on, and it's not only groceries that appear in the program. Building materials, school and office supplies and mobile phones have also jumped on board and make up an ever-growing list of over 450 products with agreed prices. From Buenos Aires, Leonel Poblete Goduti, telesur.
National opposition leaders have held a meeting to discuss the main issues to be debated in Moscow.
I believe we are attempting to find solutions to the crisis in Syria, and we have mentioned the importance of the dialogue that take place in Moscow.
The Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Bogdanov met with the Syrian ambassador to Moscow Riyad Haddad on Monday regarding the meeting. Bogdanov announced that the opposition will be represented by well-known personalities who have the authority to present proposals aimed at achieving a political solution.
Russia is filling the gap left by the declining influence of the imperialist powers like Europe and America in the region.
The Western-backed opposition represented by so-called Syrian coalition refused to take part of the talks in Moscow. Instead, they insist to adhering to US-backed plans to continue with the conflict. Nashwan Abdullah, teleSUR, Damascus, Syria.
Hundreds of Palestinians in Ramallah and Gaza City rallied in solidarity with France over the weekend in the wake of the series of attacks that left 17 people dead last week. On Sunday, participants in Ramallah gathered in Al-Manara Square, raising Palestinian flags and signs condemning all forms of terrorism. Palestinians also lit candles in front of the French Cultural Center in central Gaza City in solidarity with the victims of the Charlie Hebdo attack in Paris.
The event was organized to send a message to the French people that Palestinians condemn terrorism in all its types and shapes, and we wish that the people around the world will remember Gaza the way they remember others and will stand for the justice for Palestine and its people.
Journalists who participated in the event in Gaza said that they were standing for the freedom of expression and against violence in the name of religion. Participants condemned terrorist actions, especially those committed in the name of Islam, and asked the international community to blame the attackers themselves, not their religion. The rallies took place the same day. Hundreds of thousands of people and dozens of world leaders gathered in Paris in a show of solidarity and defense against last week's violent attack. Noor Harazin, teleSUR TV, Gaza.
The first task of a Republican-controlled Congress is Keystone XL. Passed by the House last week, a bill to approve construction of the pipeline, which would transport Canadian oil through the United States, passed a preliminary hurdle in the Senate on Monday. President Obama has said he'll veto the measure, but that hasn't stopped lawmakers from debating it.
They went through a long process. It'll create jobs, help grow our economy.
We don't know all we need to know about tar sands.
We should reject the Keystone.
We need the president to reject.
At the same time, over 100 different anti-Keystone events in cities all over the United States on Tuesday culminated in a petition delivery at the White House.
If they want 35 permanent jobs, there are a lot better ways to build them. You could build wind turbines, solar panels that would create far more jobs and do way more for the U.S. economy in the long term.
Whether it's Keystone XL or another measure with potential environmental impact, advocates say any conversation is a productive one.
If we have that bipartisan recognition, then Congress will be dealing with climate change as an issue that not whether it exists or not, but how we need to act on it.
And act they will, but they'll have to work together. Even if President Obama rejects the bill, Republicans say they'll continue to rally for bipartisan support. Right now they do have some, but not nearly enough to get a two-thirds majority in both houses of Congress, support that's necessary to override a presidential veto. In Washington, I'm Alexandra Hall for teleSUR.
The St. Lucian government is defending the new price of $13.64 per gallon for fuel, which was announced this week. It's a reduction from the $15.85 St. Lucians have been paying for petrol since October 2014. While the opposition says the reduction is not enough and has vowed protest action, the government is defending the new price and the system used to calculate it.
The excise tax has been reduced substantially from 2011 to today, 2015, and in fact has been as high as $3 in the previous administration and is currently down to $2.48.
Joseph Alexander represents employers on the island. He says the lower the price of petrol, the better it is for the economy.
There'd be more money now in the pockets of consumers, and they would now go out and spend. So I know we really look forward to a major reduction in the price petrol.
But the driver and union boss Financius Popo is not happy with the new prices.
I'm saying that everybody was hoping that they would get some relief from the pumps, at least between $10.50 and at least $12.
The price of fuel has become a topic of heated debate throughout the Caribbean. Most islands adjusted the price of fuel this week.
The government of St. Lucia says the change in the mechanism used to adjust the price of fuel aims to create stability and to reduce the exposure of St. Lucians and the economy to the volatility of international oil prices. From Castries, St. Lucia, Alison Kentish for teleSUR English.